Hi, folks. This is George, founder of Solo, and this is the Debt Hotline. We have Greg with us today. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So, Greg Anjewierden is a licensed and practicing attorney who used to work as a debt collection lawyer collecting unpaid medical debt. As such, Greg knows all the inner workings of debt collection litigation system and how it can be very unfair for people who can't afford a lawyer. Greg is also the founder and CEO of Debtbrief, a company that helps people who are sued for debt with consulting, legal representation, forums, courses, and other resources. Greg, thanks again for being on. Always glad to have you as a regular guest.
Yeah, I love being here. Love answering these questions.
Nice. So, folks, if you have a question, just go ahead and call into the debt hotline at 801-613-8181. That will skip you ahead of the queue of questions. We have lots of questions from people who've written in. If you want to skip ahead and make sure that your question gets answered by Greg and myself, just go ahead and call 801-613-8181. All right, so the general topic for today is what is the statute of limitations on debt? Greg, how about you just go ahead and give us like a little brief review of what the statute of limitations is?
Yeah, so the statute of limitations is really like there's a deadline by when somebody has to file a lawsuit by. The theory behind this is, if we just leave claims for money or whatever, really any kind of lawsuit just outstanding forever, evidence kind of tends to get stale. Memories go bad. So really, like legislatures in each state will say for this type of a claim, in our case, it's going to be, debt collection. We're going to set a timeline. And if you haven't filed your lawsuit by this deadline, then you lose the ability to file that lawsuit. If you do file that lawsuit, then the defendant or the debtor in our case can ask the court to dismiss the case and you don't have to pay that. So that's generally what a statute of limitations is. It's important for debtors to know this, because a lot of times these cases do get filed past the statute of limitations and you have the ability then to get that case dismissed and not pay the outstanding debt.
Fantastic, folks. That's the rundown on the statute of limitations, right? So basically, it's the deadline by which you can't be sued. You have to be sued before the deadline of the statute of limitations, basically. Uh, Greg, if you're sued after the statute of limitations has expired, are you going to automatically win your case? Like, will the
No,
judge just kick the case out for you, take care of you?
no. Yeah. So, I think it's really important that anytime you get sued, even if the statute of limitations is run, you need to respond to the summons and the complaint that gets filed. If you don't, the judge honestly doesn't even look at the lawsuit if you don't respond to it. The judge will simply enter a default judgment against you if you haven't responded. So I think one of the first things you should do when you get that summons and complaint is look and see, has the statute of limitations run? And if it has, then I'm going to be filing a motion to dismiss. You've got to file that motion to dismiss in order to make that statute of limitations effective or to get the judge to throw out the case. The judge is not going to do it on their own with no input from you.
Right. Okay. Right. Yep. So if you're being sued after the statute of limitations, you still got to respond and make that your defense. In which case, you will win. You just need to bring that up as your defense. Alrighty. Let's see what questions we have here today for us. So we have some questions from people who wrote in before the show began. We have a question from Bruce in LA. What is the statute of limitations in Louisiana on a personal loan? That is a tough one. Greg is not licensed in Louisiana. Not guessing that he knows the statute of limitations offhand, unless I'm wrong. Greg, what do you think?
Uh, I don't know it off the top of my head. I know Solo has a really good chart. I know you guys have got it on your website, so I'm kind of pulling it up now. And it kind of depends on what the loan is, I guess. And if there's like a written document, and with the terms of the loan on it, it looks like according to your guys' chart, that's going to be 10 years.
Yeah.
which is on the longer end of statute of limitations. Most states have shorter statute of limitations, but I think that brings up an important point, which is that the statute of limitations is going to be different in every state, and even in each state, different types of debts are going to have different statute of limitations. So, like an oral contract could have one statute of limitations, and a written contract could have a different statute of limitations, and a credit card could have different statute of limitations, and medical debt could have different statute of limitations. So it's really important that you got to be careful when you're googling this type of stuff to make sure that you're in the right state with the right type of debt. And that website you've got up there, I think, does a really good job of helping break that down for people.
Fantastic. Yeah, folks. So the calculator that Greg referenced, right? So we have a great chart of statute of limitations. You can go to our site and find the statute of limitations calculator. You just punch in your state. So we punched in Louisiana. I punched in the debt type, punched in personal loan, and then you just select the last day you made a payment. Let's say you made a payment on the debt today. That's like the main factor here. And then it's spitting out here. The statute of limitations has not expired. Statute of limitations for personal loan debt in Louisiana is 3 years. Statute of limitations expiration date in this case would be September 8, 2028. If you made a payment today, it'll be 3 years into the future. And then mentions that some exceptions and nuances may apply. And then here is the code that references this. Never be afraid of the code. Right? The code is really the law. Don't be afraid to just dive in and read the law. This is the Louisiana Civil Code, Article 3494. Right, so that's the statute of limitations for Louisiana. There you go. Great. Next question we have here is Timothy in California. If a debt is sold to a collection agency, does the statute of limitations start over? What do you think there, Greg? You with us still? Looks like Greg is frozen in an incredibly realistic and live-looking fashion. Greg, go ahead and let us know when you are back here in a minute. Folks, so just answering that question. So if a debt is sold to a collection agency, does the statute of limitations start over? No, the statute of limitations does not start over if it's sold. Statute of limitations is primarily based on when you made your last payment. That's like the general blanket concept. It differs depending on the state and the nuances of the code. That's the general idea. So if you made a payment last month, statute of limitations is 5 years. The expiration date on like that lawsuit is going to be 5 years from last month. All right, so that's the general idea. Folks, if you have a question, just call the debt hotline at 801-613-8181. And now is a good time to highlight our debt payoff giveaway. If you are in debt, like pretty much everybody listening to this show is, you might be interested in our Dancing in September debt payoff giveaway. You can enter for a chance to win up to $4,700. So if you are in debt, we will. Like many people, love the song September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. And it's all about dancing in September. So if you have debt, you can go over here and enter. It is free to enter. You just enter some basic details about yourself. Click here, enter giveaway, and then you could win $4,700. We're also giving $500 away to people that enter as well at different points throughout this month. Alrighty, great. Um, so jumping into the next question we have is from Scott in New Jersey. While a resident of California, I took out a personal loan and failed to make a payment on it. Section 337 of the California Code of Civil Procedure states that the action must be brought within 4 years from the date of last payment. I moved to New Jersey, and now the law firm that purchased the debt is suing me in civil court. The loan originated in California, and I left California 4 years after getting the loan. What do you think the judge in New Jersey will rule? Greg, it looks like you're back. How you doing?
Good. Sorry about that.
Nice. Glad to have you back. Sorry things dropped. So we have this question here from Scott in New Jersey. So he's saying he used to live in California. Looks like Scott looks like he moved to New New Jersey from California. There you go. And you're saying you're saying statute of limitations in California is for 4 years, and that law firm that purchased the debt is now suing you in civil court. Um, and you're being sued in New Jersey. So you're wondering what the judge in New Jersey is going to rule. Well, let's find out what the statute of limitations is in California. Let's take a quick look at that. So we're just going to select California here on our handy debt calculator. Um, let's see. It's interesting. For some reason, I'm having. Okay, here we go. California. And then does he say what kind of debt it is? Took out a personal loan. So we're going to call it a personal loan. And then you left California. It doesn't seem like the person here, Scott, doesn't look like you say what year you left, you stopped paying. But let's just imagine that it was in 2021 in January, 4 years ago. And we'll go ahead and calculate that, saying statute of limitations has not expired yet. Statute of limitations for personal debt in California is 6 years. All right. So, yeah. So only 4 years have passed. You still have quite a while before the statute of limitations is going to pass. So the judge is probably going to rule that you can be sued based on the statute of limitations. Greg, what do you think? You want to chime in here?
Yeah, I yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the thing that's interesting to note here is that the debt was incurred in California and he's being sued in New Jersey. So, the question is like what statute of limitations applies, and that's really going to be, for the most part, does your contract have what we call like a choice of law clause, and does it say that like the law of our contract is California law, and you entered into the contract in California, so most likely, even if it doesn't say, the law of California is going to apply, even though they're suing you in New Jersey. So like, it can get kind of confusing, like what statute of limitations applies here, but like, just keep that in mind, that it might not be the state you're sued in. It might be the state that the debt was incurred in, or and things like that.
Exactly. Yep. Totally matters what state you're in and what state the lawsuit is from. All right, folks, if you have a question and you're listening here live, just call the debt hotline at 801 613 8181. It looks like somebody is calling in now. Let me see if I can plug her in. Looks like we have a live caller that's calling in. We will get them plugged in here shortly. In the meantime, we have a question from Kelly in Minnesota. I tried to upload a Ring camera pic, but it would not let me. Can a debt collector who is trying to serve me papers dress up as an Amazon delivery driver to disguise who he really is? I guess maybe she's saying she took a picture of the guy serving her and she couldn't upload it in her form. I think that's what Kelly's saying. But anyhow, yeah, so Kelly, sounds like you're served by a dude dressed up as an Amazon delivery driver. Very exciting. Greg, what do you think?
I mean, first of all, I'll clarify and say there might be certain laws in certain states that might be different, but generally, yes, they could dress up like an Amazon delivery driver. Frankly, they could be a real Amazon delivery driver, right? Like in most states, it's got to be someone that's an adult that isn't the lawyer or the actual creditor, right? So, you know, um, so I guess, yeah, they could do that. And I think, I think a lot of people get caught up in like, how they got served, and certainly you want to pay attention to that. But if you learn about the lawsuit, I think you need to take some action to defend yourself, or you could end up in a default judgment, right? Now maybe that means you want to file a motion to dismiss and say that service was improper, but I think you don't ever want to assume that, well, they didn't serve me properly, so I don't have to
Is the
do
judge
anything.
going to make sure
Because
they automatically win if they're sued, if they're served improperly?
right, no, they're not, right? So they're going to assume that service was proper until you are able to tell them that it wasn't, or at least there's a real risk of that, right? Now, I have seen judges where they say, I looked at this and I don't think service was proper. I'm going to make you do it again. I mean, it's happened to me where I tried to serve somebody and the judge says that's not good enough. Go try it again. So
The
it
person didn't
can
show up?
happen. What I guess I'm saying is you don't even if the defendant didn't show up, right? That has happened to me as a creditor trying to sue. But I think you never want to assume that's going to be the case because far more often than not, the judge is just going to say, well, they told me they served, so I'm going to assume that's true. And, here's the default judgment.
Right. Um, do you hear about service people using disguises much?
I mean, I don't. That seems more like a thing that happens in like the movies than anything else. That's not to say that it doesn't happen. I mean, it's and I think part of the reason for that is, okay, so when I was doing debt collection, we would send out a process server, right? And then maybe somebody's trying to avoid service. But it's obvious that somebody lives there. And based on our research, it's probably obvious that the person we're trying to serve lives there. So instead of going through all these crazy efforts to hand them the documents, I'm just going to go back to the court and file a motion for alternative service that says, here's what we did to try and serve them. Here's how they're trying to avoid service. Here's all of our research to show where we think they are. Will you please just let us tape a copy of the summons to the door? And then the judge almost always will say, yeah, I think you've made sufficient efforts. Go ahead and tape a copy or put a copy in the mail, and I'm going to call that good. So while certainly it can happen, I've never seen it happen, just because I didn't think you need to go through that to get them served. There was just easier ways of doing it.
Right. Yeah, I I helped a friend. I helped out a friend trying to serve somebody. She was just doing it for like a few bucks because we had nothing better to do. Tried serving somebody, I think, divorce papers when I was living in Arizona a few times. I think we tried like 2 to 3 times, but the person really managed to dodge service, it seemed. Um, Greg, what is a process server? I think the person asking this question, Kelly, is a little bit confused. What is a process server? How does that
Yeah,
relationship work?
so yeah, when you start a lawsuit, you file the lawsuit in the court, and then you have to serve or basically hand the papers of the lawsuit, which is in our case the summons and the complaint. You've got to hand it to the other side so they know they've been sued. And so as a lawyer, if you're suing somebody, I'm going to hire somebody called a process server. And basically their job is to take those papers and to hand them to people. And they can get creative in doing that. A lot of times maybe they're in, gated communities or in apartment buildings with a, manager or security out front, but they basically their job is to make sure that they get those documents from their hands into the defendant's hands. And that's what they do.
Right. Yeah, and I bring that up because Kelly is asking, she's saying the debt collector disguised as an Amazon delivery driver. Right. And it's important to note here, Kelly, like the process server isn't the debt collector. Process server has no skin in the game on this lawsuit. They do not care what the lawsuit's about, what's happening, etc. They're just getting paid probably, what is it, Greg? Like $20 probably. They get paid by the service, I think.
Yeah, it ranges. It depends on, sort of the efforts that they have to go to. It can depend on how far they have to travel to find you. But yeah, I mean, you're usually in the range of $20 to $100.
Right. Yep. No, that's the rundown there. And it very well could just be an Amazon delivery driver doing it as a side gig. All right, Greg, we have somebody calling in here. Let's go ahead and plug them in.
Oh,
Hey, this is George. How's it going?
hello.
Hello. Tell us your name.
Asia Nicole.
Asia. Hello, Asia. How's it going?
Fine.
What's your situation?
Well, I had a question. So if you have a debt, if a person has a debt that is about 8 years old, the amount, it's not too high, but you still can't really afford it. But they still are, I, they're sending you like text messages and all that. So what can you do if you can't really afford to like pay off that debt right away, especially since you just lost a job? So what are there any options or anything?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in your situation here, so you're saying you're being sued for a debt. You've lost
Oh,
your job recently. Is that right?
well, no suing. The debt is about 8 years old. Um, but um, but
How
it's
much did you
something.
say the debt's for?
It's a medical debt.
It's a medical debt, and how much is it for? You said
It's like over $900.
it's a little bit over 900.
Yes,
It's 8 years old.
yes.
So you're wondering what to do with the debt? Like like collectors are actively calling you about it.
Right now it's just text messages, and like I did receive a letter. I think it was a verification letter, but I did try to dispute it to gain more information.
Okay, so you disputed it. Did you send them a debt validation letter?
No, not yet.
How did
I
you
did like
dispute? How did you
yeah.
dispute it?
Well, um, there's multiple ways. There's like you can call or electronically send one, or send it through the mail.
Okay. Um, and how did you get into this situation?
Uh, it was some years ago. I did go to the doctor. It was unexpected. Uh, it was a ruptured ovarian cyst, and it was right around the time that I moved. So, yeah,
Okay.
it was completely unexpected. And I think, was I working? I can't remember if I was working. I was working at the time, but I didn't have health insurance because on, I was working part time. So,
Okay. Sorry to hear about the situation here. Uh, Greg, what do you think?
I mean, if it's 8 years old, then you probably ought to look at, has the statute of limitations run, right? And there may be a reason that they are continuing to text you and bug you but not sue you. And that may be because they know the statute of limitations has run, and so they are not, they know they can't file that lawsuit, and so they're just going to bug you and hope that you pay. So and if that's the case, if you look at it and you say the statute of limitations has run, then you probably don't need to do anything at all, frankly. You might send them like a stop collection letter so that they have to stop contacting you without filing a lawsuit, and that might be the end of it. Now, if the statute of limitations has not run, then one thing to do is you could also send them a stop collection letter, and that's going to force them, like, okay, look, we can't text or call or whatever until we file that lawsuit. And then knowing that that's probably means they're going to sue you. You could reach out and try and negotiate a settlement, use a tool like Solo Settle, and try and negotiate some kind of payment plan. You can't afford $900 right now, but if you could get on a small payment plan, maybe you could pay that off if you do something like that. Again, that's assuming that the statute of limitations has not run. So that's kind of the approach that I would take, is look at the statute of limitations. If it's run, tell them to stop contacting you. If it hasn't run, probably try and negotiate some kind of a settlement.
And how do I figure out because I live in a different state. I know each state is different. So how do I
Let's take a look at our handy calculator. What state are you in?
Texas.
Okay. Let's take a look at Texas. We got medical debt, Texas. You're saying you've never made a payment on the debt, right? It originated 8 years ago in
I think
2017.
I did. It was a charge, but I think I may have done it. I can't remember. I've been having this debt over my head for so long.
Was it like in 2017 that you might have made a payment, or some other time?
Probably
2017. Okay. Let's just plug in June 2017. Our calculator saying the statute of limitations has expired. The statute of limitations for medical debt in Texas is 4 years. The statute of limitations expiration date is May 30th, 2021. If like you made a payment in May 31st of 2017, or June 1st, 2017. Then here is the code that you can look at and find out more about it. Yes, I mean, 8 years ago, Texas statute of limitations looks like it's 4 years.
okay.
And this is exactly why they continue to call you, right? Because in some ways it's like, why $900? Why don't they just file a lawsuit and come after you? Well, it's because they know that a lawsuit's going to be unsuccessful, right? So they're going to the statute of limitations doesn't mean they can't ask you for the money. They just can't force you to pay it. So I think in this case, what I would do is just send them a letter that says, please stop contacting me about this, and they should stop contacting you.
Yeah,
If you
they're legally required to
letter.
They're legally required to honor a cease and desist.
Yeah, unless they decide to sue you, which we know that they probably can't do because the statute of limitations has probably expired.
Yep, and that'll get you resolved here. Asia, what's your financial position like right now? Are you earning money? What kind of money are you earning?
None. I'm living off my savings account right now. I've been looking for a new position, a new job. It's been quite difficult.
But you are employed. You are employed from time to time.
I'm not employed at all. That's the
When
problem.
were you last employed? Was it like several years ago, or is it like a few months ago?
Last year, May 2024.
Yeah, like a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So that's one option for you. Another option with Solo, we are dedicated to helping people improve their net worth, right? Really helping people go from rock bottom, which is oftentimes being sued for debt, and helping them go all the way to positive net worth and build their wealth. Something that you can consider here if you really want to get this debt like fully behind you and resolved. You can, when you get it, try to earn more income. and then pay this thing off, right? Just pay off the debt and be done with it, get it behind you, and then tackle other debts that you might have and try to build your positive net worth. So those are kind of two options for you that are before you. Alrighty,
Okay.
very good chatting with you, and thanks for coming on to the show.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. So
All right.
thank you.
Good
Thank you.
luck.
Fun one. Yep. So, folks, sometimes statute of limitations really are expired, right? And I think what Greg mentioned, or they can keep on contacting you unless you send them a cease and desist. This is an important part, I think, of that equation. Alrighty, we have go ahead.
Let me just add something too on that. Like sometimes they're just going to contact you and like, oh well, they can't make you do anything, right? So like in some ways, like just ignore them, and the statute of limitations is passed. You don't have to pay. So just like don't fret it until it really starts to become burdensome with their contact.
Indeed. We have another live caller that is getting queued up here. Folks, if you have a question you want to make sure that we answer, you can call in to the debt hotline at 801-613-8181. We have lots of people watching live, so you'll want to go ahead and call that number and we can get you plugged in. Let's see here. And also, folks, if you are being sued for a debt currently, which many people are, you can use this link here in the chat to respond to the lawsuit. That link will support Greg for coming on the show. So go ahead and check out that link in the chat. You can use that to respond to your debt lawsuit, as well as get a lawsuit settled or any other type of debt they want to get resolved. We have a question from somebody who wrote in early, from Ricardo in Georgia. I received notification from third-party firms via mail soliciting me to pay for representation that I am being sued by B of A for an old $10,000 charged off credit card debt from 2023. I've not been served yet. I looked online and the suit was valid. So I contact them to try to settle beforehand, or should I wait to be served before I engage the firm representing Bank of America to see about a settlement or payment plan? Thanks.
I mean, really, you can do either on this, right? Like sometimes you want to see like, look, I'm not going to do anything until they sue me, and maybe they'll just go away and you can wait and that'll be fine. And then I think sometimes it's, look, I know I owe this. I know I'm not going to have any good defenses, and I'm going to reach out, before I get sued and just try and get it resolved. And so I really kind of think it depends on the circumstances, whether you understand that you owe it, whether you think they have proof that you owe it. And so I'm going to kind of take that on a case by case basis. There is what my response would be to that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty on point. Timothy, if you're being sued, right, it sounds like you're being sued for this debt. It might be a debt that you are familiar with, right? It's $10K. It's not that old. It's just from like a few years ago. You can, in our experience, it's usually going to be better to settle, as early as you can up front. You can get things wrapped up on solo settle if you want to, and it's people usually feel best when they are paying back money that they owe. Oftentimes you can just pay it back at a discount, right? Find a way to increase your income and get this thing fully paid off. The best outcome, best resolution for people is going to be paying off the debt at some kind of a discount so you can fully get it behind you, right? So you can show that the debt is satisfied, so your credit report will get that boost so that you'll feel good about yourself just paying off debts that you owe, and you can move on with your life and build positive net worth in your life. All right, we have a question from a live caller. Here is Dennis. Dennis, how's it going? This is George.
Hey, George,
Good.
how are you? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you
me?
great. Go ahead and tell us about your situation.
It's a little complicated for me anyway, but you guys probably fully understand this. So the brief version, I lived in South Carolina and owned a business. And in 2014, we defaulted on our mortgage. They put a judgment against me in 2015, November of 2015, in the amount of, well, a lot, over $450,000. I haven't heard from them since and moved to Florida in 2017, completely rebuilt my life and retired. I'm actually calling you from Ecuador. They must have sold the judgment to one of these really big debt collectors who domesticated the judgment without telling me, garnished my Wells Fargo account, took $70,000, and is now garnishing my IRA accounts. And I need this money desperately for my retirement. So my first question is, the original judgment, I believe, expires in less than 2 months. How does that apply if I fight this case in Florida? Will they, if I get it quashed because they never notified me, will they be able to refile after the statute is expired in South Carolina and continue this forever?
Dude,
That's the
Dennis, so
question.
sorry to hear about the situation, man. That sounds like a bummer spot to be in. Right, so you've retired to Ecuador. Congrats on retiring to Ecuador. That sounds awesome. Sounds like a great time.
Thank you.
But it's a little bummer that they're coming after you for this judgment from a long time ago. So you're saying, so just recapping the situation. So you were foreclosed on in 2015, is that right? And then they got a $400,000 judgment against you, a
Correct.
deficiency.
In South
Yeah, so
Carolina,
deficiency mortgage judgment.
yes.
Right. So folks for listening in, what will happen? So Dennis, right? You owned a home, you had a mortgage, you had equity in the house, right? So let's say the house was like $600,000. You owned, uh, what are we saying, like $200,000 in equity, and then you missed some payments. The bank forecloses on the house. The bank takes the house and then sells it uh, for a lower rate, and then they got a judgment against you for the remainder, basically. Is that right? Like the difference between what they sold it for and
No, that's not what happened at all. But
what? Tell us a
the
little more.
basis was I owned
Mm.
a business. We had an office. They foreclosed on that, never filed a deficiency judgment for the amount that they sold the property for. So the judgment that they assigned to this other company is still for the full amount without the adjustment. They never filed a deficiency judgment in South Carolina. And this other company was assigned it last year and filed a judgment again, domesticated it to Florida while I
Oh,
was in Ecuador and began
crazy.
seizing all my
So you're
assets.
saying, so this wasn't for a home, this was for a business property, like the office building that you owned?
Correct. Yes,
And
that's
the
correct.
business, you said the business shut down? Was it bankruptcy, or did you just close the business?
We closed
Not
closed
bankruptcy?
the business. I never believed in bankruptcy. I really wish I'd have filed it now.
You closed, okay. Yeah, so you wound down because of economics? Like the business was kind of going under?
Yes, because of the economy and people defaulted on all their payments to
Right.
us.
Right.
Yes,
What
I
kind of
was
business
wiped
were you?
out. Advertising and marketing.
Okay. Um, And so you
If I
owned
if I
this office. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Greg.
if I can jump in, so if I'm understanding you correct, there was a judgment, and then they've domesticated it now in Florida, and you're saying that the original judgment is about to expire, and so you're saying if I fight this in Florida because it wasn't properly served, like, and if in the meantime, if the judgment expires, are you going to be able to not have the judgment domesticated in Florida? Am I understanding that right?
That's exactly what my
Okay,
question is.
so
Yes.
I mean, the thing is that in order to domesticate the judgment, there's just got to be a valid current judgment. So I guess it depends. Like, yeah, you should fight this in Florida, and if you can get it overturned, great. If in the meantime that original judgment expires, they probably are going to have a hard time then like re-domesticating it in Florida, right? So like, yeah, like trying to delay that is probably a good idea. Now, here's the thing. If I'm them, what I'm going to do is actually South Carolina was the original judgment, right?
Yes, and you can't
Okay, well, that
renew
was going to be
that.
my next thing. If I'm them, I'm going to try and renew that judgment. If the judgment can't be renewed, then yeah, this might be something that works. I think the thing is that it's a little bit out of your control, and because it kind of depends what they do, how fast they do it. And again, I don't know the law in Florida. Like sometimes there are things that can save you if you've filed something but haven't served it properly. Sometimes the judge will not dismiss it but make them just reserve, right? Like so the case doesn't get dismissed, it gets reserved. And so like yes, what you're describing could work, but I think it's not guaranteed to work. So you may want to make alternative plans. I would definitely would go through that process, but you may want to make alternative plans of what to do with your money in case that doesn't work. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So my only follow-up question on that is what type of attorney do I need to handle this? Because I've called so many attorneys, and they all just want me to file bankruptcy. But of course, I can't easily file bankruptcy because it'll take the rest of my funds. So, are there specialized attorneys that fight judgments and garnishments?
Unfortunately, that's kind of like a gap, and I think that's why companies like Solo, kind of came about because there just aren't a lot of attorneys that do debt defense work specifically because quite frankly from an attorney's perspective, it doesn't always pay very well. So, what I would say is you can probably find an attorney that does some debt collection work or maybe just like a general practice attorney that just kind of, a local neighborhood person that kind of takes all comers. My guess is if you're willing to pay them up front, you would be more likely to find someone who's willing to help you with it. Because you're going to have to pay them hourly for this type of work. It's not going to be like a contingency type of case. So, to find someone, it probably is going to take a little legwork on your part to find someone willing to take the case. And it's probably going to take you paying them a retainer up front for them to be willing to
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
exactly right. Right, like a retainer for this that you should probably expect is going to be like at least like one to $3,000 into a retainer, and then you're just going to have to pay them hourly, like whatever their hourly rate is, which is probably going to be anywhere between like $100 to $500 an hour to do this. Um, and I think
Okay.
Greg,
And then I have
you think he has a
one.
case, right? Greg, is that kind of what we're saying here? It seems like there is some kind of a chance
Well,
to get this like wrapped up.
yeah, I think this is like a good plan. I guess what I'm saying is that if the judgment's not expired yet, it may not work. Like they may figure this out and fix it before the judgment expires. Right? Like you may file some motion to get the Florida judgment set aside because you weren't properly notified, and they may go, "Ooh, man, he's got a good chance of winning that motion, and that could dismiss the case." And so they may try and fix it really quick with the court before their South Carolina judgment expires, right? So, like, yeah, I think you do have a pretty good case on that. I just don't think it's a guarantee, and some of it's a little out of your control if they figure it out before that judgment expires.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
and in the meantime, you may want to be doing something with your assets to protect them, right? Because if this happens, there's, they're going to keep taking that money. So,
Yes.
moving
Well,
assets around is something you may want to do sooner rather than later.
I would like to ask one quick follow-up, and that is, are they allowed to seize your IRAs? I thought they were protected.
I don't know the answer to that specifically right off the top of my head, but it probably depends on the type of IRA, the nature of it. Like, they can get at a lot of stuff. And there's ways for them to get at money. I mean, even like you think about like one that everybody talks about is like Social Security disability can't be garnished, or veterans benefits, those kinds of things can't be garnished. But like as soon as you get that money, put it in a bank account, like they can come take the money out of the bank account, right? And so like I would definitely look up what type of IRA you have. I would research the law in Florida as to whether they can take that specifically. And if you think they can't, then you're going to file a motion in the court to remove the garnishment because you think that they can't take that kind of account.
Greg, and it's gonna be Florida state law that applies here primarily. Is that right? If not South Carolina,
it would be Florida state law. Yeah, if they've got the garnishment in Florida, it's going to be Florida state law.
Even though he lives in Ecuador and it's domesticated. It's governed
Well,
by Florida.
it doesn't. Yeah, if it's domesticated in Florida, if because what they've got to do is they've got to get the, presumably like the IRA, whoever your account has offices in Florida, and so they're going to, they're going to serve. They're going to get that garnishment, a Florida garnishment, and serve it on that account, bank or whoever, in Florida, right? Because they have to take that garnishment. You file a motion for garnishment, and the judge signs the order. You then have to take that order and serve it on the person you're garnishing. So, we talked about Bank of America. If I've got an account with Bank of America, they get the garnishment, and then they serve it on Bank of America, and Bank of America has to respond. So really, you're trying to serve the bank wherever the bank is, if that makes sense. So it doesn't matter that you're in Ecuador if your bank is in Florida.
Yep.
I understand.
Dennis, a few other questions and comments here. Greg, what about this adjustment? So Dennis is saying the business. I think if I understand Dennis right, he's saying that the mortgage or the loan for the property was worth around $400,000, and then the property was foreclosed. It was sold for some amount. It's probably sold for around $400,000 to $600,000, I would guess. And then, but the adjustment wasn't made, right? So this should be a deficiency judgment where it should be the loan balance owed minus the foreclosure sale price or the fair market value. But it sounds like they're coming after him for the full amount. What do you make of that?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do in that case is let's assume that your whole plan on getting rid of the judgment and then it expires in South Carolina doesn't work, and they get the judgment, but it's for the full amount. And you say it should be less than that. What I'm going to do is file a motion. I don't know, you could call it different things, motion to amend the judgment, motion to alter the judgment. And in that document, you're going to provide proof that the judgment is not for the full amount, but it's for a lower amount, and ask the judge to reduce the amount of that Florida judgment.
And he would make some kind of a request for documents regarding the sale price or the fair market value of the property so that you can do the math for him.
Yep.
Right.
Provide whatever proof that you have in your motion, and then try and convince the judge to reduce the amount of that judgment.
Dennis, who is the collector on this?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Dennis, who's the collector?
It's one of these giant companies called SMS Recovery out of Arizona. I did some research. They're like a $650 million company. So this is their specialty, and they're very powerful.
Let me say one other thing too.
I'm not as familiar with them. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
SMS, like text, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them specifically either, but I do some quick Googling while you're talking here. And I'm not a Florida, right? And I'm not your attorney, so this isn't legal help point you in the right direction. If I just do some quick Googling, you might want to take a look at Florida Statute 222.21, which may protect your IRA. So take a look at that. If you think that applies in your situation, you may want to file a motion to, set aside or stop the garnishment. Again, I don't know if that will work. I haven't done research. I'm not licensed in Florida, but that might be a resource at least to start looking at.
Yeah, my other point for you here, Dennis, is that my understanding is IRAs are protected up to 1.5 million in bankruptcy.
Yes.
So that's something to consider as well. And then how much you have in the IRA, it might decrease the pleasure of retirement, but it is pretty solid protection.
Understood. Thank you
All right,
again.
Dennis, thanks a lot. We will have Hannah, wonderful assistant on the show, follow up with you about potential Florida attorneys. It does sound like you might very well want an attorney, and it might make sense for you financially to actually hire an attorney, pay them hourly to help you out. And that is a common problem that we hear, is that they oftentimes want to do bankruptcy, but it does seem like your situation might merit just hiring somebody on the hour. So let's have Hannah follow up with you after you hop off. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, Greg, that was an exciting one. Quite the sticky situation there for Dennis. International
Yeah, it's
law,
not the usual kind that you
property
do.
mortgages. Very exciting, very exciting. And definitely hope the best for him. It sounds like, and folks, something to point out, right? It sounds like he's come out on top here, right? Retirement in Ecuador is a great spot, and many of our people are more in the position that Dennis was in back in 2015, where they're getting foreclosed on. But you can totally come out positive over time. All right, we have another live caller. This is our last one. Gonna plug you in now. Hello, this is George with Solo. How's it going?
Hi, it's going. It's going.
Great. Tell us your name. Is it Randy?
Yes, it's Renessa.
Fantastic. Renessa. Hello, Renessa. Tell us about your situation.
I had a bank that I had 18 years worth of history with, bought 4 cars, completed the loan, had good credit. COVID kind of set me back and got behind on stuff. I had a credit card and they tried to garnish me last January. So they took me to court and I got an attorney and everything, and they did take the price down. But I've noticed now I'm almost due paying it off, like $6,000 within under 2 years. But I've noticed that they said they were the original creditors. But in that time, I've gotten a lot of credit card offers from Capital One. And I looked at my credit report and I was like, well, where is Capital One? I never applied for Capital One. So my question is the bank the original owners, or is Capital One the original owners? Did they not tell the truth? And do I have a case?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into that here. So just clarifying some points. So you've been sued, right? You were sued for this debt already.
Yes. Yeah,
And did you lose your case?
We reached a settlement.
You reached a settlement. You settled it with a lawyer. You hired a lawyer and the lawyer settled for you?
Yeah. And they said that they said they were the original creditors. So I'm thinking that's who I remember getting the loan from.
Who was the collector? Like, who was suing you?
It's Mazuma.
Mazoma was suing you?
Yeah.
Who is Mazoma? How do you spell that?
It's a bank.
Mazoma Bank.
Yep. It's a credit union.
Just MESOMA?
MAZUMA.
Are they? Where do you? What state are you in?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, okay, are they pretty popular in Kansas State,
Yes, yes,
Missouri?
they
Okay,
are. Yeah,
Missouma.
and like I
They're
said,
they're they're a credit union.
yes,
Okay,
uh,
and so you're saying Mazuma sued you,
yeah,
and
claiming to be the
uh,
original creditors.
which they, I mean, you tell me who was the loan? Like you're familiar with this loan, right?
Mazuma.
This was for a credit card with Mazuma.
Yeah,
Uh, and so it's so you had the credit card with Mazuma. You worked with them for a long time. They were good to you
yeah,
until they sued you, right? And
yeah.
then
And I mean, I
and
have a
so
little
how
bit
does
more
Capital
to
One come
this.
into the picture? So where
That's
does Capital
what
One come into play?
that's what that's my question as well. I did not
Uh-huh.
apply for credit Capital One. My agreement was with Mazuma. You see what I'm saying?
What did Capital One send you?
They've been sending me all these updates, and then when I check my credit report, I noticed they're on there as if I applied with them and got the credit card. But I never signed any contract with them. I only signed with Mazuma.
I see. Uh,
But and
so
and another thing that
you're currently being garnished.
yeah, yeah, like
Currently being
they
garnished.
and they and
What happened to the settlement? So you made it a settlement with the
well
lawyer, and then you
I'm
didn't
sorry,
man it.
it's not
You fell behind.
they're not garnishing me. I agreed on the settlement, so I've been
Oh, okay.
paying.
You're just
So
making monthly payments.
yes, I'm under $1,000 paid off. Like
What kind of so you said the debt was $6,000. Is that right?
it was probably a little over that,
It was a little bit over 6K, and now you're down to $1,000 on the balance.
less than $1,000.
Okay, so you just have like a few $100s left to pay. How much are you paying monthly?
Like 900, and I pay 250 a month.
Okay, so you're gonna have this behind you in just like 4 more months.
Yeah, you know my thing is
That's good.
this.
Congrats.
I feel like they kind of did me wrong, and there's another backstory to this.
Yeah, go
They
ahead.
re they repoed my car at COVID. Remember when it was on the news that they were repoing
Hmm.
cars as soon as you were late? Well, they took
Hmm.
mine.
Hmm.
And in that course of time, I've took it upon myself to learn what the laws were. And I didn't understand that they actually never told me how much they sold the car for, which is against the law, which they should have notified me that the car was sold. So,
After they repossessed it.
yes.
Right.
And so they should have notified me um, when that car was actually sold and for how much. And what
Looks like we lost Renessa. Renessa, hopefully you can join back in. Greg, do you want to weigh in on what we know about her case so far?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little confused because if she's reached a settlement and um and she's making the payments, like I'm not sure where Capital One comes into this. I guess she's making it sound like Capital One's showing up on the credit report or whatever. I mean, my initial, without looking at everything and understanding it completely, my initial reaction is like maybe there's Capital One's separate from this altogether, and it's sort of a separate thing, right? And sometimes these companies will send you credit cards in the mail, and you use it once, and you don't have to sign anything necessarily to enter into a credit card agreement, right? And I don't necessarily know that's what's happened or whatever. I mean, I don't know if there's any relationship between Mazuma and Capital One, but my thought is, look, keep records of the settlement with Mazuma, and when you pay it off, get your case dismissed or whatever, and keep records of that. And then if Capital One comes after you for the same debt later, your response to that lawsuit is going to be, I have already paid this to Mazuma, and here's all my proof of that. But until Capital One sues you, I guess there's really nothing to do, at least from a legal perspective. From a credit report perspective, I guess you could, pull your credit report and go to the bureaus and try and dispute those if you're just like, I just don't know what these are. But I think that's sort of a separate issue from the settlement itself. The settlement itself seems like it is going according to plan, at least the way she described it.
Right. Looks like Rainey is back. I'm going to plug her in now.
Okay.
Vanessa, how's it going? You're back.
Yeah. So, okay. So,
Yeah, you're
they,
about to tell us the big reveal about what
oh,
happened with
yeah.
Capital One here.
Yeah. This is like taking advantage of a single mom that doesn't have access to attorneys. And so what they did was they sold the car, did not give me notice. I was just able to access my account and realize that they had paid off the other debt. Like I had like $200 here, or, a $900 loan there, but they sold the car for more than what it was worth. But the law states that they should have sent me a check. They should have not used that money for what they wanted to use that money for. That's the reason why I didn't get that last notification, which is against the law. So I'm debating on whether I should actually pursue a lawyer for the damages that they've done. And
Right.
when I contacted them and I asked them, I said, I'm having a hard time with my credit. So if you would have, 18 years of dealing with you, paying off 3 cars with you, obviously I'm a reliable person. So I asked them out of grace and hardship if they would remove the repo. And they didn't want to deal with it at all. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't really want to deal with it at all. And I was like, well, why would they not want to work with somebody who's trying to work with them? Like I'm the reasonable, even though I'm in the situation that I am. And I just think that it's like the reason why I want to fight this is because I feel like they've done so many people wrong. And by doing nothing, they just going to keep doing it. You know what I mean? And somebody else that's going through something like this alone and can't afford an attorney, how many people have they like ruined their life? Yeah, I've worked in education since 1999, so I'm close to retiring, and I just feel like it just makes me upset when they take advantage of people's situations to do these things. You know what I mean? Like it affects people's lives gravely. And how many more people are going to have to go through situations like this because nobody's saying anything, you know? So I'm
Indeed.
just kind of debating on whether I should actually pursue like a full-on lawsuit. Like, hey, you're not gonna do anybody else. Like, you need to not do nobody else like this. You know?
You said you're an educator. You're a teacher.
Yes, I am.
Well, God bless you. I think that's an honorable occupation for sure. Love teachers. What do you
Yeah.
teach?
I teach all the way up to 6th grade.
Nice. Elementary school.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so you're saying, right? So you're saying that
They just kind
you
of
feel
did me
like
wrong.
Muzuma foreclosed, or not foreclosed, but Muzuma repossessed your car prematurely, took the money, so like the car was like worth $5,000. They sold it for $6,000. Then they
Oh,
took
the
the
car
extra
was.
money and put it on something else.
Oh, totally. The car was. The
What
car was.
it was
The
worth?
car was like a. The car was probably worth 15,000.
What kind of car
So
was
they
it?
probably took. They probably. What I had remaining balance on it. Well, I mean, I probably paid half of it off. Like I said, I'm a pretty reliable person, so
What kind of car
they
was it?
paid it. It was a. Like this happened in 2020. It was like a 20. What is it? 2018 Chevy Cruze. 2019. It was probably a year old.
Sweet. Solid
It was
vehicle.
probably a year old when I had it.
Yeah. Okay. And then they took that money and then paid off other debts
Oh
that
yeah,
you
yeah. And they didn't realize I
instead
still
of
had.
giving the money back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess just jumping into things here. So it sounds like Capital One probably warrants a bit more investigation. Sometimes what we find is that consumers can be like quite confused in the situation, and they might think something's happening, but like something else is happening. Probably, if you look into things closer, Capital One probably isn't tied up with this Mazuma thing. I'm not sure what's happening, but it's probably not tied up. But Capital One is a bank, right? They issue their own credit cards. They don't do deals with credit unions like Mazuma. Mazuma does issue credit cards on payment networks like Visa, Discover, or MasterCard. But Capital One's just like totally a different thing. So we have a really hard time seeing how that might add up. But you might want to investigate. You can pull your credit report for free with Solo, and we give you quite an in-depth look, so you can do that and look into the accounts with more detail if you'd like to, and try to get to the bottom of that.
Okay. Now, I mean, the car is reporting zero balance, like, but it's just still hurting my credit. You know what I mean? Like there's no balance due. So the car was completely paid off.
There's $0 balance on Capital One. I see.
On the repo.
On the repo. I see. Interesting.
On the credit card, it's just I think it's $900 left on there. And so
Okay.
So maybe I'm getting Capital One because my credit is getting better. I don't know, because I don't owe them anything. I don't owe anything. My credit is bad because I when that happened to me, I pulled away from all credit stuff. So my credit is bad because I haven't when I'm done with the credit card paying it off, then I'm gonna rebuild my credit. But I refuse to get another credit and still be paying on this credit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my credit is like damaged because of not building, not getting those small credit cards, and I don't want to mess with that right now.
Yep. Well, just so you know, Solo's dedicated to helping people grow their net worth. So you can go on to Solo, you can check your credit report for free. You can chat with our AI and get personalized tips to your situation to, manage your budget, improve your credit, get more specific on some of these things. Greg, what are some of Renesa's options here in regards to dealing with, this past repossession?
Yeah, I mean, my initial gut reaction, and again, I'm not a lawyer in your state, so you're going to want to look into the law in your state and certainly talk to a lawyer in your area. But my initial reaction is you may have waived that argument. What typically happens is you get sued for a debt, right? And as part of that, you may have arguments that like, look, well, you violated the law as part of this. And sometimes when you have claims that are in response to their claim against you, you have to raise them at the time that you are sued.
That's what I did. I did that.
Okay. So did you file a counterclaim then?
I didn't even know about a counterclaim at that time. My attorney was.
But like, so what happens is you raise that. Now the problem is you reached a settlement on the claim, right? And so, I mean, I could see it going either way, honestly, because you may be able to say, look, I still have this claim against you, and certainly if you can find an attorney and do that, I mean, you should. But ultimately, what I think their argument is going to be is like, you waived that argument when you entered into the settlement agreement, like because we've settled our claim, all of our claims against each other, and so it could go either way. I'm not telling you not to. Well,
they said
right?
that said I'm in good standings other than this, so I don't have any more debt with them past this.
But this would be you suing them, right? And their response to that lawsuit may be, well, you've waived that claim because we were fighting with each other in a lawsuit and we reached a settlement, so all of those claims are gone, replaced by our settlement agreement.
I see what you're saying, and that's where it's like, for the most common person that has nothing to do, that doesn't know their rights, that's where it's like, you hire an attorney and you think that you gotta, I don't know, you gotta get a
Greg, what are her options? What are her options besides like legal, besides litigation?
I mean,
the attorney
other thing
didn't want to do it. She said That's what
Right.
happened. She said that she was going to be leaving the office and she wouldn't be able to take it to trial. So she was kind of
Yeah.
pushing for the settlement and push, I didn't know all the laws. I learned this along the way. So,
Sure. I mean, other options are going to be, look, just finish paying the
yeah.
settlement and be done with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and part of that is
That's what that's going to happen. It's just that it just upsets me because it's like so many people that, like I said, when you're in a situation where you're not in a position to pay for somebody to fight for you, and you get stuck with stuff. You get,
Yeah,
treated any kind of way.
Vanessa, like like some other options that are available to people are, filing complaint with Attorney General, filing complaint with like consumer protection organizations in your state, etc. Those are things that people can take action on outside of litigation. Solo's here. We maintain good relationships with collectors, also with consumers. We help people come to amicable resolutions.
Yeah.
Oftentimes collectors are uh, the vast majority of collectors that we see are like acting in ethically and trying to do like the best thing for their clients, right? Who oftentimes
Yeah.
they are in a relationship with their clients. But
Yeah.
things do happen, things do fall through the cracks, and those are some options that are available to you. So you have a broad spectrum here. Congrats on almost getting this thing paid off and
Yeah.
becoming
I'm like I said, I'm
debt free. Yep.
the credit card was up to probably $10,000-$15,000.
Yep.
It's just COVID kind of just wipe.
Yep.
Just wipe
Congrats on getting your way out, and I'm
Yeah.
glad you're looking forward to retirement. And again, thanks for educating our children. So fantastic. Great to have you on the show. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Alrighty, folks, that is all we have time for today on the debt hotline. You can use Solo to resolve your debt, respond to debt lawsuits, get your cases settled, get tips on your credit report, building wealth, etc. Greg, thanks so much for coming on the show. Take care.
Yep, thanks for having me.